Good afternoon and welcome to Detroit Regional Chambers COVID Town Hall Series. I know many of you tuned in before, and we thank you for that, and hopefully you've been able to find value and up-to-date information from what we've been providing and sharing with the leaders. And today we've got a very important leader from our community that you might not know because he's always behind the scenes with his team working at Detroit Metropolitan Airport, or DTW. As we all refer to it on a regular basis. And Chad, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Great. Well, one of the things I want to just mention to the audience today is you will have a chat function. If you'd like to submit a question, we're going to get to that. And Brad Williams, our head of government affairs, is going to jump in here in a little while and help us with the Q&A. But Chad, I thought you and we could chat a little bit about what's going on with the airport, travel, and things like that. But you literally grew up at the airport and in the area. You were in law enforcement after you were in the Army, but can you just tell us a little bit about your career there and how long you've been there?
Yeah, sure. I started with Wayne County in 1993 after serving 4 years in the military. Served 4 years in the military as a law enforcement military police. Transitioned to the sheriff department in 93, and then in 1999 I took an assignment as a sheriff's deputy at the airport, and I elected to stay there the rest of my career. I went back for just a few months, but then quickly came right back at the airport. So it's been a little bit over 30 years of law enforcement, and at the airport for 21 years.
Well, then you've seen a lot of changes there, right? Because there's been a lot of changes at the airport. And by the way, thanks for your service in the military, and thanks for your service in law enforcement, and thanks for doing what you do today. We're in the middle of a situation that nobody ever thought we'd be in, but maybe we could just start right off the bat by, if you could talk about some of the, what are some of the big challenges that you have seen, from an operational standpoint and a people standpoint with the pandemic and COVID?
Well, I can tell you that the aviation industry has never seen anything like COVID-19. It's not just specific here to DTW, but every airport's experiencing it, some worse than others. It's had a complete impact in just about every way. Our enplanements are down, our passenger traffic's down, our concessions are down, our revenue's down, and it really, we build a budget and we try to stick by it. But when the revenues don't come in that you were expecting, that you had forecasted, but the expenses are still there, it makes a really difficult situation. We were very thankful and very appreciative of the CARES Act money that we received. It's $142 million, roughly, and it's going to help us this year and possibly a little bit next year, but it's certainly not enough to cover all of our expenses. So it's a very trying time. You look at last year, we were rated one of the best airports, the best airport in North America, according to JD Power. So we had our best year, or one of our best years ever last year, and we're having our worst year this year. So it's very difficult.
I can imagine. And I had the privilege to tour the entire facility. And when I mean the entire facility, we were everywhere into last year. And so I got a sense for how complex the operation really is. And with that complexity comes cost, right? So understandable. When it comes to air travel itself, how does this crisis compare to what you saw, because you were there and you were right in the middle of it with 9/11?
Well, 9/11 was it stopped all air traffic in North America and most of the world for 2 days, but we quickly came back. In the COVID, since we've experienced COVID-19, I can tell you that the recovery is going to be a lot longer. If you compare what happened this year, April of this year, we had 178,000 passengers come through the entire month of April of 2020. Compare that to the year before in 19, we had over 3 million passengers. So it's had a devastating impact. I would say that COVID-19, we're not through it yet, so we don't know. I don't think we're going to be through it until we get the vaccine and people become more comfortable flying. So we still have a long way to go. So it's kind of hard to make a comparison, but 9/11, the U.S. government quickly got involved and increased security measures, and I think the confidence level rose quite faster than what we're seeing now.
Well, and we're certainly, as you mentioned, early in this pandemic, and there's a lot we don't know about how the virus behaves and lasting effects and things like that. But one thing we did see was an absolutely significant change in air travel with 9/11. I would imagine you're seeing some changes, and do you think that there will be lasting changes, implementation wise, protocol wise, that we'll see with air travel?
Yeah, I think the changes that we're experiencing now compared to 9/11, we did have a great reduction in air travel after 9/11, but as we went through that year and the following year, it rebounded a lot quicker than what we're seeing right now. The protocols that are being put in place now, I don't know that they're going to last. We'll take, for example, not Delta's choice not to sell the middle seat. That's not something they can sustain long term.
No.
When the vaccine comes out, people feel more comfortable. That's one of the things that won't change. Maybe wearing masks. I think you'll still see a large segment of the U.S. population. I often have seen people travel from other countries wear masks, and I've always kind of just questioned it because it just never made sense to me. But I'm not going to be surprised if I see passengers wearing masks inside the airport and onboard aircraft.
Yeah, I've already heard people say that when I'm sick in the future with a cold, I'll put a mask on. And then that you're right, that's not something that Americans typically do, but as we travel around the world, we do see quite a bit of it. So I want to switch gears here a little bit to your people and the environment and culture. When you look at the employees and the number of people you have, I think you have around 700 direct employees, but people don't realize, although they can see it, there are 16,000 people plus who call that work home and make a living there. When it comes to the environment that we have found ourselves, fortunately and unfortunately, in with social injustice, how has that impacted you and your team? And maybe talk about some of the things that you were doing before or you've implemented now. And I know you mentioned to me before, this is really important to you.
Yeah, social justice, diversity, inclusion, all those things are extremely important to me. They have been. It's not something that a position I've taken since becoming CEO. I had it before joining the military. I had it while in law enforcement. When I took over public safety as the vice president of public safety, I made a huge push to make sure that our police department, our fire department, our security department, our emergency management department, all were a reflection of the community that we work in. Detroit metro area is a very diverse group of people, and we have to be a reflection of the community that we live in. Not only in the people that we hire, but now I have the fortunate position of making sure that we do forms of inclusion with disadvantaged businesses or small businesses. So it's not just a matter of the people that we work with, but it's the people we do business with as well. I know the social justice protests, they're still ongoing, and in many cases for good reasons. There's a in law enforcement. I'll just speak to the George Floyd incident. When I saw that video for the first time, I was heartbroken. I can tell you that as a law enforcement officer, I know, our duty is to protect and serve. And, it's very clear there was no protecting going on there. There was it's a horrible situation. And we as an organization, the Wayne County Airport Authority, I knew that we had to do something. So immediately after seeing it, I contacted our chief of police, our vice president of public safety, and I said, let's review our standard operating procedures, because what happened there cannot ever happen here. And we reviewed our policy, and we looked at our response to resistance policy, and we made some changes there to include a duty to intervene. And we also created a duty to intervene policy that basically just says that anybody, regardless of rank, sees an unsafe act, that they are required to intervene. I certainly hope it's only done in training, that we have to use this standard operating procedure. I hope it's something that we never have to do, but I'm confident in our team that if anything like that happens at Detroit Metro Airport, somebody will step in and make sure that, we're protecting the people that are in our custody, we're protecting the people that we serve. It's a heartbreaking situation.
Well, Chad, you made an interesting point there. I mean, I know personally how I felt when I saw it, and friends of mine and family members, but you are and were a law enforcement officer. It had to have a different impact on you, and therefore you can carry that forward too, because you have this responsibility as CEO now.
Yeah, we want to be the organization that where people, whether it's here locally or nationally, when they see what our policies are and what actions that we take, we want to be an example to all law enforcement of ways that you can, enforce the law while at the same time through dignity and respect and protection.
Great, thanks for your input and update on that. Now let's stick with the people aspect. You have an incredibly large facility. It's an enclosed space. Most passengers, other than when they're getting out of their parking, are enclosed. What about mitigation for COVID and protocol that you put in place? That has to be a massive undertaking for an operation like this.
Yeah, so we've done several things to help. First, we increased our cleaning schedule, making sure that our janitorial staff is hitting the high traffic areas and the high touch points. We've put hand sanitizer throughout the terminal into busy areas. We've installed acrylic shields, not only at the ticket counters, but at the gate podiums. We put up signage all over the terminal, as you walk in and throughout the terminal, which reminds folks that social distancing is expected and face masks are required. We've also instituted overhead announcements, making sure that people are aware of what our policy is and where they can get masks. I can tell you that the federal government gave us 1.7 million masks this year, and we have created these mask dispensers that are located in both of our ticket lobbies. If someone shows up without a mask, they can go there and grab a free mask.
So one of the things we've been reading about or hearing about in the news is, and it's understandable, is disruption from people who don't want to wear masks and getting onto planes. And not asking you about specific incidents, but have we seen that at Metro or in the airlines that serve? Obviously, the airlines have served it, have seen it in their situation. But what about our airport?
We did see it. We were a little disappointed after the governor's first executive order requiring face coverings that it was seen as more of a suggestion and not a requirement. And so we took corrective action as the Wayne County Airport Authority. We sent out emails and to all of our tenants and stakeholders, and also our internal stakeholders, our customers, our employees. We reminded them what our expectations were, and if you're inside the terminal, I don't care if you're going in there just for lunch. You're going to wear your mask. And I can tell you that over the last few weeks, I've been doing my routine where I walk through the terminals, and it's not 100% compliance, but it's certainly in the high 90s, which is much better than what it was. There are some folks out there that can't medically tolerate masks,
Right.
and some of the folks that I see that aren't wearing mask are ones that I believe that they would probably have that that difficulty. So we're doing well. We're doing much better than what we were a month ago or 2 months ago.
Good. That's great to hear. And that's important. One of the things we've done is been very involved in a mask up campaign, as you are aware. And the other thing that we've seen, and maybe I could ask you this, is when people are at work, for example, the auto plants, we know that the protocols are in place, and we know that you have your protocols in place. It's when they go home to the rest of their life that we want to make sure, as the business community, that they're adhering. So it's work smart and play smart. Are you communicating that type of stuff to your employees too?
So we do. We have communicated what our expectations are when they're at work, and we have gone through great lengths to make sure that anybody who does not have to come to work stays home. So the only people that are coming to work are the people are public safety or maintenance and operation. There are other groups, but those are the big groups. So as far as us telling them what they are going to do outside of work, we haven't taken that position. But we strongly would encourage them to be safe. And I can speak for myself that my wife and we haven't had any guests over our house since this started, with the exception of people that we visit outside with. We'll have some folks over and sit out on the deck or something like that. But we don't entertain inside our home.
Yeah, that's same thing here. A question before we get to Q&A. A lot of associations have methodology, so they share information. Chambers of Commerce belong to associations. How does the airport industry, how do you share best practices in this pandemic where you can learn from your peers and from other airports? Is there a mechanism to do that?
Yeah, we have large organizations that we affiliate with, Airport Council International, North America, ACI, and American Association of Airport Executives, AAAE. We're in regular contact with them, and they do a lot of research for us. They do a lot of lobbying for us, and they share best practices, things that certain segments of whether it's size of airports or geographic locations of airports that they're seeing. So they do a lot of research and share information with us. Make sure that they're sharing the good ideas that an airport on the East Coast or West Coast has come up with. That information is shared on a regular basis.
Okay. One of the things that it comes up very often right now, and you wouldn't think so, is are you hiring for certain things at all? Are there job opportunities? And people don't think right now that there are, but there are job opportunities. We're just curious if there is anything that the airport's looking for.
Right now, we are not hiring. The Wayne County Airport Authority is not hiring. We're in a hiring freeze. We were staffed with approximately 717 employees when we had 36.8 million passengers come through. We're 55% less than that right now. So right now we're overstaffed. So we're trying our best to find ways to allow people to retire early, incentivize them to retire early possibly, and reduce our not only our headcount, but the impact that an additional maybe 100 employees has on a budget that right now we don't have a need for 717 employees here. We're trying to right size the organization. So unfortunately, no, we're not hiring. Now there are job opportunities at the airport. You mentioned the 16,000 badge employees. There are jobs that are out there, construction jobs, and these folks are hiring on a regular basis.
Okay. All right, that's good to know. I'm going to bring Brad in for some other questions. Brad, do you want to join us here?
Yes, I'm trying to remember how to turn my camera on, Glenn, and it is coming.
All right, I'll jump out for a second and jump back in, and then I'll wrap it up here in a few minutes.
So, Chad, a lot of our members obviously have relied on business travel as a big part of doing business in the past. What is the airport's plan to make sure that when, in fact, we get back to some semblance of normal, that business travel continues? Because I think, frankly, a lot of us are using technology like this and are seeing that maybe business travel is not as necessary as we thought.
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. The technology that we're using today is something that we, as an organization, we weren't using. Well, we just met in person, and we did a lot of traveling and ourselves. We're really fortunate. Our largest airline at Detroit Metro Airport obviously is Delta Airlines, which is a world-class airline, and they do a great job with business travelers. In fact, I would argue that a large portion of business travelers at Detroit Metro Airport are Delta customers. So Delta is really is put in a position to make sure that they do whatever they can to encourage business travelers to come. Our goal is the leaders here at Detroit Metro Airport is to make sure that people feel safe, that they know that we're doing the right job of making sure that the facilities are clean, that supplies, masks if they need it, but keeping the facility clean, keeping the gates moving so that they make their on-time connections. Those are some of the things that we're doing to make sure that business travel comes back.
Yeah, and obviously, the most impactful business in the airport is Delta Airlines, as you've mentioned, but there are a host of other businesses throughout the terminal. My wife and I have been thrilled since you added Plum Market to the possibilities. We always stop there for breakfast when we're traveling. How are the other businesses in the airport doing with the lack of travel, and are there ways that they can be assisted?
Yeah, so everybody, not just us, but our concessionaires are struggling. When you have 50-60% less customers, there's a huge deficit in their budgets as well. So they're not getting any business traffic. Most of the concessionaires have closed down. They are in the process of reopening. But one thing that we've done as an organization is they have what we call a minimum annual guarantee of the rent that they pay. And there's a clause in their contract that allows them to, if we don't hit a certain number of unplanned passengers, it allows them to reduce what their minimum annual guarantee is. But that's not done until the end of the year. What we've done as organizations, we've estimated what that would be. We're anticipating a 50% reduction, and we've moved that forward. So we've passed that cost savings on. So and then we've done some deferments as well. So they currently, in some cases, our concessionaires are only paying 25% of what they would normally pay.
Now, we've talked a lot about passenger travel, but what about air cargo? Obviously, I think at Willow Run, that is a huge portion of your business, and even at Metro. How have air cargo operations changed since COVID? I know I once a day check my UPS tracking and see that I have something in Romulus. So I assume there's been a good amount of cargo coming through.
There is. The cargo is down, but it's not down nearly as significantly as passenger traffic is. I haven't seen the latest numbers, but I'm guessing we're probably about 20%, 30% down, but it's not, the 95% that we saw early on with commercial traffic.
And then the last question I have from someone who's been listening in, what are the current guidelines that the airlines are required to adhere with as far as like individual plane capacity, and what are the steps that the airlines are taking to keep their passengers as safe as possible?
I'll start with the last part of that question. And the disinfecting that the airlines are doing is second to none. They have increased the strength of cleaner that they were using, the way that it's sprayed throughout the cabins. The turnaround time at the gates is longer. The aircraft are there longer, so the cleaning staff can stay on there and do a more thorough job. I've heard nothing but positive comments about how well the aircraft are. What was the first question? The first part of that question?
Just as far as capacity, what are the guidelines, I guess, that the airlines have to adhere to? What's required of them?
So there is no requirement. I will tell you that they, Delta has made the strategic decision to not sell the middle seat, and for a very long time they have not been selling the middle seat, and in many cases they're losing revenue on that. Other airlines are selling the middle seat, as a last resort, and then other airlines are selling it, as a part of the regular business just as they did before. So it's kind of all over the map depending on what the individual airline philosophy is.
I mean, I feel sorry for Delta not being able to sell the middle seat, but as a passenger, there's nothing better than an empty middle seat. Chad, thanks for everything that you and your team at the airport is doing. I know my family had to cancel an overseas vacation in April because of COVID, and instead we went up to Munising this past week for our vacation, but we can't wait to reschedule it, come through Metro Airport and enjoy the world-class facility that you lead. So thank you for everything you do, and we can't wait to come back.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brad. Chad, we'll just wrap up here today. Thanks for your time. Really appreciate it. You and your team, like I said, we go through the airport and we go through fast and we go through a lot, and we don't see what's behind the scene, but it's a beautiful asset, and it's a really important asset from a logistics standpoint, both for people and goods and services. And we know it's going to be part of the region's growth for the future, and we look forward to working with you on that. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Greg.
And to all of our people online, I want to thank you for joining us today. And I will just tell you about 2 upcoming town halls real quick. Next Monday at 11, Mark Lee from the Lee Group is going to be talking about small business in the pandemic. And then kind of similar theme on Tuesday at 11 o'clock, Bill Emerson from Bedrock will be talking about supporting of Detroit small businesses right downtown. So everyone be well, stay safe, and thanks for joining us today. Have a good day.